Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 181. As always, I'm your host, James Shotwell, and it is great to be with you again. I'm sorry if you missed us last week. As many of you probably know, the Apple company just released a new update to Mac, and the update had a few bugs. One of them being that it did not like recognizing SD cards. So the episode that we planned to run last week is currently on hold while we give you something that we actually recorded over Skype. This week's episode of the show marks the return of Bayside frontman Anthony Raneri, who was on episode 86 of the podcast over 2 years back. Anthony is on the show to discuss his band's new album, Interrobang, the unique approach to releasing the record that the group took, and their plans for their fall and winter touring. Now, this is a lot of music business talk. We've been getting into a nice little niche in the industry as of late where we talk about the business of music, which is, in a way, what we've always wanted this show to be about. We want to talk about the reality of working in the music industry, and Anthony and I get into that pretty quickly in this episode, and you can tell that it's not something that he does a lot of interviews about, because as we start to head down that path, he recognizes what we're talking about, and he asks if it's okay. I think that's kind of funny because we live in an industry today where artists have to work harder than ever to make ends meet and harder than ever to please their fans, and they feel strange talking about that business. But at the end of the day, that is the job. That is what we're all here doing. The reality of the situation is something that we should feel good talking about, and it should be something that we talk about a lot. The ins and outs of the industry, the ones and zeros, the dollar signs, the cents, the whole thing. It needs to be discussed if we're ever going to figure out better ways to do it, more efficient ways to do it, more cost-effective ways to do it, and we're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work. You know, there's a lot of people following the lead of whatever's hot right now, and while that might work for whoever's taking off and trending online, it's not going to work for everybody else, but time and time again, we fall into the rut of following whoever sets the example. That's not how the world works anymore. In the age of the internet, it's all about how you can stand out, how you can be unique, how you can express yourself in a way that is so utterly unique to you that people simply cannot deny it. And I think that Bayside has made their career on doing just that. Interrobang is the latest in a series of fantastic releases from the band that offer very deep insights into the members' lives, specifically that of Raneri, as well as hope for the future in a world where hope seems to be in short supply. Before we get to that conversation, I need to tell you a few quick things. First and foremost, this episode of Inside Music and all episodes of Inside Music are brought to you by Holics, the industry standard for music promotion. Now, what that means is that Holics helps record labels, publicists, and independent artists from all over the world share new and unreleased music with tastemakers without fear of piracy and with the ability to track engagement, stats, consumption, all that good stuff. You can join today and promote your music through Holics by visiting holics.com. That's HAULIX.com. If you go there today, click the sign up button in the upper right-hand corner, and you sign up. You'll get your first month of service absolutely free from your friends here at Inside Music. So visit holics.com today and join the likes of Metallica, Slipknot, Blink-182, Green Day, Weezer, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and thousands upon thousands more in promoting your music through the industry standard for digital distribution and promotion. Again, that's holics.com, HAULIX.com. I also want to encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. It's called Music Biz. That's Music B-I-Z, and we have a ton of great content over there. We also have a blog, holicsdaily.com, HAULIXdaily.com, and we have a Twitter. It's just at Holics. Find us and hang out with us. I also want to encourage you to pick up Interrobang, the new record from Bayside. It's one of the biggest releases of October. It's one of the best releases Hopeless Records has put out this year, which is saying something because Hopeless is always a reliable label. And it's one of the best releases in the band's catalog. Everyone should hear it, including you. But right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with the one and only Anthony Raneri. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm well. It's actually kind of feeling like fall in the Midwest where I live right now, so I can't complain too much, I guess.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where you'll be in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, cool.
It's actually supposed to snow here possibly this weekend, so I'm trying to soak in Yeah. There's like some weird weather thing happening where the parts of the state will get like a foot of snow this weekend.
Oh wow, yeah. So I think it's like 85 degrees here.
Yeah, I'm not okay with this, but I'm trying to appreciate this small moment of like actual seasonal weather that we're having.
Yeah, give it a couple of days of it, I guess.
I mean, sometimes that's
Fall
all
and
you can get.
spring have really become like a week long affair, huh?
Yeah, they're kind of like suggestions at this point. Like
Yeah.
it should be this way, but it's not. How are you doing? Let's get right into it. So we're like, what is it? 4, 5, 6 days since the release of the record. How are you feeling about the response to Interrobang right now?
I feel great. I mean, it's almost. I mean, from what I've seen, it's nearly unanimously positive, which is kind of like unheard of. So, I mean, there's nothing to not feel great about, really.
That's good. Are you somebody that actually goes looking for people's opinions on it, or do you try to just shut it all out and whatever kind of filters through you'll take?
I'm more concerned with with the fans' opinions, because I do like to sort of take that in as sort of market research, I guess, when we're making records, when we're, writing songs, when we're coming up with a set list, when we're thinking about what cities to play in. It's important to pay attention to what people have to say,
Absolutely. I was having a conversation with Mike from Alternative Press not that long ago, and we were talking about bands of your generation, or like when you guys started to now, and how there's this weird thing that happens in like the press cycles and stuff, where there's this period where you're a band that like even AP and other places will cover all the time, and then at some point like the next generation of readership comes along and you start to see yourself get put a little bit further back on like on the front page. You're not 1A anymore, you're like 1B maybe in like the press pages, so to say. So I like that your take on it is to focus on fans, because I feel like you guys make stuff that people should be writing about and make stuff people should be talking about, but there's also like that machine of the industry where it's like we have to serve the young people, and you don't necessarily write songs for that.
There's a real shift, you know what I mean? I mean, the young people keep AP's lights on, you know what I mean? But
exactly.
That's not who keeps my lights on, because our fans are older now. I mean, I look at like our Spotify analytics and our social media analytics, and the majority of our fans are between 28 and like 35, 36 years old. That's where we live now. So we make a living playing at venues, and the venues pay us well because our fans have money. Our fans are adults with money. They come to shows. They drink a lot at the shows. They'll pay for parking. They'll buy merch. So like we serve a very different audience than a majority of like the press. Not the press in general, because obviously like older people obviously read, but those magazines that we used to be in when we were younger, they keep turning over. They keep going over. Like they have new fans. They have people who kind of stop buying the magazine, but then new ones come in, and they definitely have to appeal to that younger generation. But like at the same time, it's like to get pushed back a few pages in AP or whatever is like, it's okay with us because we understand that, but also like we know that our fans aren't really reading it. That's why we're getting pushed back. So,
well, I feel like in my opinion, it seems like at some point as a creative person, you kind of have to decide like, am I going to keep trying to tap into whoever I was when we started this band and people first gave a shit, or am I going to allow myself to grow and develop and hope that people follow us on this journey? And you chose the latter.
Yeah, they're growing with us. So the idea is like, we try to be pretty reasonable with our expectations and our perspective on our band and our career and our success. We're incredibly happy with like what we've accomplished and where we are, from, I guess just from a success standpoint, we're a well-respected band. That goes a long way for us. We're proud to be like thought of as a good band and to have a lot of respect within the industry and from fans. I mean, there's even people who don't like our band will still sort of respect the band. That means a lot to us. And then from like a success perspective, like we make really good livings, that we have nothing, we don't want for anything. So, to complain that you could have nicer things, is crazy. We're happy with what we've accomplished. And I know that Social Distortion makes new fans. There's young kids who go to Social Distortion shows. There's young kids who go to Bad Religion shows. And that's not for anything that those bands are doing to try and capture young kids. It's because it's word of mouth. And that's really the industry where we are today. There's nothing more valuable than that. So we just looked at our career as a train, and we just keep steaming down the tracks, and sometimes people get off and sometimes people get on, but like train's going to keep going.
That's a very good analogy. Listening to the record and hearing you now, it's very interesting to me because last time you and I spoke was before Vacancy came out, and it was an interesting time in both our lives. You had just written this record about the end of relationships and all this stuff, and I was about to start going through the whole divorce world myself because I'm in that 28 to 36 age bracket that you were just discussing. Mm-hmm. And so at the time I was like, man, we talked to each other at like the right time because I felt like we were both, I felt this connection to you and that like we're figuring out this weird thing in life that we have to deal with now. And to listen to the record and listen to you and anything I've heard you talking about the record, it seems like you found your way through it and you're in a better place now overall.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah.
strikes and gutters. And like our records are always going to be sort of like they're going to show where I am emotionally at each phase of my life. I've been in this band longer than I wasn't in this band. So that like I kind of hardly remember a time I wasn't in Bayside. So I've grown up in front of people, and I write really kind of blunt emotional lyrics about exactly what's happening in my life. So the journals of my entire adult life are public. So, if you could read somebody else's diary they've been keeping for 20 years, it's gonna be a roller coaster, I guess.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the release of this record. I know that we only have a little bit of time today, so I'm just going to clip along. Hope you don't mind. I'm bad at transitions.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
No, well, that's good. I actually was in the Hopeless offices a couple months ago for work because we work with them in their promotional efforts, and they had told me about the album. This would have been like at the end of July, and they were telling me about it, and I was like, there's a new Bayside record coming in October, and they told me about the release plan and like the quick rollout. Can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, that decision? Like, when did you guys decide, like, we just want to drop something? We want to say it and then put it out right away?
Sure. I know that you guys are I'm familiar with your site mainly through, you guys do all the streams, yes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's how I know the site. So before we can dive into it, I'm curious what the, what your listenership is or your viewership. Is it like more industry based or is it fans? Just because I don't want to bore the fans to death with the details.
No,
the details are pretty interesting to a lot of people.
No, this is definitely meant to be more into I seek to have the business talk and try to find that balance between business and like the struggle of like the reality of working in music. So feel free to get into to the numbers and the boringness of it all.
Sure. Basically I'm a music fan first and foremost. So I try to take all of the way that I consume music and the way that I react to music into consideration. And it's really the most important thing in part of my decision making when it comes to band decisions. They said, what would I do if I was a fan? How would I react to something? So I just noticed. So for one thing, I noticed as a fan, I would hear about a record. Somebody would announce a record. They'd release their first single. And I'd be psyched. I'd like the single. I'd say, cool, I'm excited to listen to this record. And then I would just forget about it. And then 2 months later or whatever, I would see something on Instagram like, oh, the record's out today, pick it up. I'm like, I forgot about that. That didn't come out yet. And I know everybody that I have this conversation with is like, yeah, I have that same feeling all the time where I see a record and I'm like, that didn't come out yet, So that was one thing that I wanted to try and like defeat, because I think that goes with how we consume information in 2019. That's not a music business specific problem. That is just how we consume information. We want it now, and then we're done with it and we move on to the next thing. And this industry is just so much more saturated than it was when we started. There was a time when our record would come out and we were the record of the week or the record of the month. And, that has a lot to do with kind of what you were saying before about getting covered in AP and where you get pushed to. And because on the day our record came out, just out of our friend group, like 4 other records came out. That's just out of our friends, So it's a much more crowded space. So we were like, how can we carve out, how can we clear the deck? How can we carve out a little niche where everybody's only paying attention to us? So that was part of it, certainly. And also, budgets are shrinking, marketing budgets are shrinking. And we were like, well, how do we keep people's attention for 2 months? Can we afford to keep people's attention for 2 months? Can we creatively come up with enough content to keep people's attention for 2 months? The answer was no, but we can afford to and come up with enough content to keep everybody's attention for 2 weeks. So the idea was kind of born out of that. And I know that you're friendly with the Hopeless people. So we played an acoustic show at the Troubadour in LA, and I went next door to Dantana's to eat dinner with Tobin and Aaron. And I said, I want to announce the record 2 weeks before it comes out. And they said, how's that going to work? And I was like, let's go to dinner, and you got to give me an hour. So we spent an hour talking about it and basically just trying to poke holes in it, which is what you should do with any idea, try to poke holes in it. And we spent an hour trying to poke holes in it. And, a lot of it, those like long rollouts they come from the times of like long lead press, print press, radio campaigns, MTV, all these things that take time to like either produce or to get the radio stations to play it and all this stuff. And we were like, well, we're not going to be on the radio. And like, there's no such thing as MTV. And we don't get print press really. Rolling Stone's not going to cover the band, So like, what do we need 2 months for? Like, we're not going to miss. So the idea was like, we're not going to miss out on anything with the short rollout. And what I think we could gain from is having those 2 really exciting weeks to get the core fan base really excited. So that's kind of where it came from. I mean, it hasn't been without its challenges. We wanted to make sure that we smashed a 2-month rollout into 2 weeks. So we still released 4 singles in 2 weeks, and we did a video, and we had a bunch of behind the scenes content, and we announced a tour, and we're running a battle of the bands for local bands to open the tour. And we did a bunch of in-stores. I still have another in-store tonight. We're doing multiple interviews a day. So we're doing 2 months worth of work in 2 weeks, and so is our label. So it hasn't been without its challenges, but it's been a pretty exciting thing, and we're pretty happy with how it turned out.
I'm really excited about it because I feel like there was this period, I guess probably in 2010 to more recently, where bands such as yourselves would be talking about your new record, and there was always like this sentiment of like, I wish we could just like record it and release it. And we've reached this point just now in like the back half of 2019 where bands are like, you know what, we actually can just do that. We could just put the record out. We don't have to do the 6-month rollout or anything. It feels like rock in all of its many forms is starting to shift in that direction a little bit more.
Yeah, you can. I mean, and also like the industry has changed in a way where like your record cycle's over the day after the record comes out, unless you do a massive record or a huge breaking artist on the radio or whatever, where the label or whoever will continue to work the record. But for the most part, mid-level bands like ours, like it's all about first week, So we were like, why does it have to be like that? We've been having conversations with the label of like, why can't, when our early records came out, the record coming out was just the start, like let's get the music out there, and now we got to go try to get people to listen to it, So we spent 2 weeks just getting the core fan base excited. And as far as if we can gain any new fans on the record, like they got to have the record's got to be available for that to happen. But that's the way I see it. So our past few records, really the cycle has kind of ended on release day. Like that was the finish line. And we've had conversations with Becky, our publicist, who's the best in the world, who I think is probably listening in right now. And, our label and our manager, and we said, like, we want to keep doing in-stores during the tour. We want to keep working through the tour. We want to keep doing press through the tour, throughout the rest of the year. Like, let's keep working. So, yeah, we're taking a different approach, but I think we're living in a really different time. So we're trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. And I want to, we're getting short on time, so we're going to move on to this. You mentioned the Battle of the Bands to open for the tour, which I love. And let me tell you, my favorite thing that I've seen online about it, other than a feed filled with bands asking for people to vote for them for this tour, and I want to talk about what you guys announced yesterday, is that I saw a tweet that said, vote for my band to play for Bayside is the new vote for our band to play Warped Tour. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, that's what you want.
I'll take it. I also saw a tweet though that said the Bayside Battle of the Bands is the DIY Hunger Games. So those are the two sides of the coin.
That's the internet in the nutshell
of this contest.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, so you guys announced this contest for a band in every city to open for you, and it's clearly getting a big response. But then I think over the weekend or last night, you guys announced that you were going to end the contest soon because of bots. Is that what happened?
I don't know if it's bots or if it's people using VPN. We can't really figure out exactly how it's happening. There's a lot of challenges with it, from a customer service, I guess, perspective. And people don't quite understand, we're still a DIY band, we don't have a ton of people working for us, helping us make things happen, so a lot of times, it is us monitoring, this voting, I get all these, we're getting these people who are messaging and they're like, when are you going to do something about the bots? When are you going to do something about the cheating? And I'm like, if Twitter and their billions of dollars of resources can't figure out how to get rid of bots, you think I'm going to do it from my living room? You know what I mean? We're doing our best. So now, message, that you're talking about yesterday. I mean, the contest, I want to say the contest it has gone amazing. I've seen so many cool things. There was a band. There's so much cool shit that I want to shout out for it, but I don't want to shout out any specific bands because I think it'd be unfair to any of the other bands if I start talking about any. But there's been so many cool things. I saw somebody made a Spotify playlist where we had 1,000 entries. There's 1,000 entries in the contest, and somebody made a Spotify playlist with a song from every band in the contest, and is pushing it out there just so people can find new bands. And that's really what we wanted to come out of this. It's going to be great for the 29 bands that win and they get to play a really cool show and have a great experience. But so many bands we're hearing are finding new fans, and we're getting so much stuff from our fans saying, I listened to all 20 bands that were entered in my city, and I found a bunch of new bands right in my hometown that I love now. So that's all been amazing. But yeah, from a technical standpoint, from a customer, because this technology doesn't really exist. We're using a form plugin that's how we took in the entries, and then we're using a poll plugin, and that's how the voting happens, and that's the end of it. There's not a site that just does this, So it's really we're the back end. And yeah, so back to the message that went out yesterday was just, there's been so many people are getting discouraged about thinking that people are cheating, and there's been a lot of bullying. There's bands fighting with each other over it. There's bands fans going after the other band that their favorite band is in a close race with, and that all sucks. It really sucks. So the only way that we could actually clean up the entire contest, there's been hundreds of thousands of votes cast in the contest, and we're actually now going through all of them and looking at all the votes and looking for anything that seems seems fishy. A band who got all their votes in an hour. A band who got no votes for a week and then got 1,000 votes in an hour. And then bands who are getting 300 votes from Bangladesh. That's a red flag. Unsigned local bands from Orlando or Dallas that got 900 votes from the same IP address in the Ukraine. That's the kind of stuff that we're trying to find, those anomalies in the voting. But now it's literally us and our team going combing through all this data, looking for anomalies. So we're doing that, and then what's even more difficult than that is then we need to have a correspondence with that band, and we have to email. We have, my assistant has been emailing all the bands that if we find anything that's sketchy, and then obviously the bands explode and they post on Twitter that Bayside accused them of cheating, and then all their fans get mad at us. I assure you we're not cheating. And I'm like, well, you have 900 fans in Ukraine? Because you should get to Ukraine right away if you're not cheating.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
It's a lot of work. The emails are blowing up, the social media is blowing up, and we're just sitting here staring at numbers on a computer screen for 18 hours a day. But we wanted to work. This was a huge experiment, in all the obvious senses, but it's also a huge social experiment. We're getting some messages though from kids who are there's bullying happening, and this band's fans are telling this band that they suck. I'm like, if you want to be in a band, you're gonna have to get used to people on the internet telling you suck. That's lesson number one from Bayside Battle of the Bands. It's the internet is awful. If you want to be in a band, you got to get used to it.
Yeah, that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're out of time, but I think that it's from just strictly from the Bayside end of that whole scenario, it all seems like a big compliment to you, because even the fact that somebody would go through the trouble of setting up a bot to do all that kind of stuff to win a chance to open for you really says something about how much they value the opportunity, even if they're going about it in a weird way.
Yeah, I think that honestly the whole thing is incredibly positive. We're really excited about the response to it. I think it's so cool. We've gotten a lot of messages from bands just saying this is really energized us. We've never worked so hard on anything before, and it's we wanted to try to maybe teach bands a lesson, and it's you have to bust your ass to gain any ground in this business, and this is a prime example. And a lot of people don't think it's cool that we're doing fan voting, that it becomes a popularity contest. But that's lesson number two, and I think it's cool that all these bands are energized, that they're working hard, and I hope that they can take it. And then at the show, we really want the bands who win to spend the day kind of being sponges, watch us operate, watch our team operate, and just see what it is to be in a professional band. And
it is kind of a popularity contest. Just the whole thing.
And such is life.
Yeah, such is life itself as well. Yeah, that's
the thing too though is the only other way to do it would be for us to just pick local bands to open each contest, which there's no way that we could listen to 1,000 bands and pick, right? So we would have had to 90% of the bands wouldn't even have had a chance to enter, and also it's subjective. Who the fuck am I to say who's good and who's not? I think that we crowdsource that, and you kind of somewhere in the middle is the truth, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing it the right way, and I like the rollout of the record, and I think that you've positioned going into tour immediately after its release is also helping keep that momentum going, because I was going to say, I got real excited about the Tool album that was announced a month before it came out, but then the record hit, and then they announced the tour that wasn't for several more months, and it was all right, now I got to that all that excitement went away, but you guys just dropped the record, and now you're going on tour, and now it's okay.
Yeah, well, we used to tour all the time during the record. We would start the tour before the record came out and tour through it. But kind of going back to what you said earlier of like the kind of band we are now and how things change when you reach a certain level. It used to be about we need to be on tour to promote the record. Now it's become like we need the record out for a little bit, let the kids learn the words, and then we'll go out and play the songs, you know?
Perfect. Well, people can see you here in West Michigan on November 9th. And when does the tour kick off?
November 6th, I believe, in Minneapolis.
So we're on the real early first few days of the show, and I'm actually going to be in New York to meet your publicist Becky a few days before that. So I'll get to see the whole gang.
Awesome.
It's going to be exciting.
Cool.
Thank you for taking the time again, man. I hope we can do this again. Hopefully it doesn't take another 3 years to get here again.
Thanks a lot.